Hey guys, it's Coach John here, and in today's episode of Kickboxing Foundations, we're finally going to cover the Roundhouse Kick. It's the most important kick and possibly the most important strike you're going to learn in kickboxing. It's the one you're going to use the most. It's also the one you're going to have to defend the most. So this is going to be a slightly longer video, but I'm going to break it up into 3 sections for you. This first part is going to be all about the technique of the kick. The second part is going to be how to throw the kick on a bag or with a partner. And in the third section, we're going to start drilling different things with this kick. All right, so first and foremost, the roundhouse kick. What is it? Roundhouse kick is going to be the kick that you use the most and you see the most when you're competing or training. It's very versatile. We can use it on both legs. We can attack different targets. The most common one we're going to use is going to be the low kick or the leg kick. But then we also have body kicks and then eventually head kicks. And the way you're going to throw each of those is going to be slightly different. For the sake of today's video, we're going to focus on the low kick, and then we'll get into some drills that involve throwing to the body and the head as well. Couple of things. In traditional martial arts, you're going to see a lot of roundhouse kicks land with the foot. They're going to hit with the top of the foot when they make contact. In kickboxing and Muay Thai, we want to avoid that. We're not going for points, we're going for damage. And when we do that, we want to aim with our shin. So you see I'm wearing boxing shoes right now. When I hit my target, I want to make sure I'm hitting it with that shin bone just above the ankle. So where my shoe ends is where I'm going to try to strike when I hit my target, whether that be another human or a bag or a pad or something like that. So think about it. The foot is made up of a bunch of tiny small bones. And then we have our shin bone, which I like to call the baseball bat of our body. So we have a lot of small bones on the foot, and then we have a nice large solid bone on the front of our leg. And when we're striking, whether it be on a bag or on a person, we want to imagine that it's real. So if we're throwing roundhouse kicks and that foot hits an elbow on your opponent, you're going to shatter your foot and they're not even going to care. If you hit it with the shin bone, it's still going to hurt, doesn't feel great, but you can withstand it and deal with a little bit of pain, but they're also going to feel it and possibly really hurt their arm. So we want to make sure we're hitting with the correct part of our leg, and that's going to be that shin bone. Some other very important things you need to consider when we throw this roundhouse kick. When we throw this roundhouse kick, my goal is to bring my leg up and turn it into the side of my opponent in general. So when I do this, my leg has to come up and I need to turn my body. Just like with our punches, rotation is everything. The most important thing you need to learn in the beginning is to make sure we pivot on that front foot. So if you look at my lead foot here, when I bring up my leg and I try to throw all my force sideways into my target, this way, if I don't pivot on my front foot as I do that, all that torque is landing on my knee. And so as I go to turn, if I keep that foot straight, I'm going to end up tearing my knee out, which is where we see a lot of the injuries in kickboxing. So what I want to do, and I'm going to demonstrate it without throwing the kick, just bringing my knee up, is as I throw the kick, not before, I need to pivot on that foot. And if I just land, I'm now facing another direction. So when I'm teaching beginners, I want to see that front foot pivot at least 90 degrees. And that's for beginners. The better you get, eventually, I want that foot 180 degrees. The more pivot you can get on the foot, the knee turns better, the hips turn more, you can turn your shoulders over more, and we can deliver a lot more power. I'm going to demonstrate that on the bag just a little bit here. So my front foot is facing my opponent or my target. I'm going to bring my leg up, and we'll get into the technical aspects of how to do this. But as I throw my kick into the bag, I need to make sure my front foot turns around and faces the other way. The more you practice it, the more natural and easy it becomes. And then we don't obviously want to just set it down and turn around. As I hit my target, I want to snap back. I'm actually pushing off my target to push myself back into that proper fight stance. So I'm just going to throw a few, and I want you guys to pay attention to my feet. And that's what I want to make sure we focus on the most when we're throwing this roundhouse kick is that front foot pivot. We'll correct everything else as we go. Okay, so making sure we remember to pivot on the foot, that's rule number one. We don't want to get injured. The next thing we want to focus on is throwing this kick in a way that's going to disguise it. And that's going to allow us to throw other kicks in the same manner so they don't know exactly what's coming. So when we're starting to learn this roundhouse kick, the first thing I want you to do is get in that neutral fight stance. Okay, my knees are bent, I'm ready to go. I want to throw off of my rear leg. That's the leg I'm going to be kicking with. I want to push off that leg to drive my knee straight up at my opponent. If I do that facing you, I don't want to bring my leg out to the side and throw a big looping round kick. I want it to be nice, straight, and I want to use my rotation and my pivot to generate the power. So when I do this, the way I'm going to start by throwing this kick is I'm going to drive my knee straight up. It might be slightly out, but mainly down the center line. My leg's going to come straight up. Now, think of your knee as the scope on a hunting rifle, okay? Wherever that scope ends up pointing is where you're going to deliver the damage. So, depending on my target area, the leg, the body, or the head is going to determine how high and how far I have to drive that knee up. So remember, that knee is the scope. My shin bone, when it hits, is the bullet. So I'm going to drive my knee straight up wherever I'm at, and I'm pushing off my back foot to do that. That's going to give me a lot of speed. So if I'm going to aim, just for the sake of the video so you guys can see what's happening, for a body kick here, I need to make sure my knee comes up to that same level. I don't want to come low. I want to drive my knee up, and then from here, I'm going to turn everything at the same time. I'm going to turn. I'm going to drive up, aim my scope, and turn everything at the same time. So as I go to deliver the kick, I want you to watch my foot pivot and where my knee starts. So I'm going to drive up, turn, and come back. My power and my snap is coming from my rotation and my pivot, not from a big swing. That's how I want you guys to start training the kick. Now, it can be difficult to get that pivot correct, okay? It can be hard. So, I'm perfectly fine, as we're learning to drill this kick, to step a little bit with a turn before you drive your knee. That's going to make the pivot a lot easier. That is a bad habit, though, because what that does, if we continue to do that as we get better, we're showing our opponent that we're about to throw a kick or we're about to move. So if this bag had eyes and it wanted to get out of the way and it sees me step and turn that foot, it knows, if it's been training, a kick is coming, and they can preemptively get ready to check or block the kick, or they can just step back and get away. So while you're learning it, it's okay to step first to help get everything else down. However, the better you get, the more technical you get, they're not going to see it coming. So I don't want to get in the habit of turning that foot early. I want to get in the habit of bringing my knee up and turning everything at the same time. Let's talk about hand placement with this kick. What do we do with our hands? So some things are going to feel natural, some things aren't. Natural isn't always right. So what you're going to find, what feels good and helps you generate torque, and you'll see a lot of fighters do this, and they might have good reasons for it. So again, I'm never one to tear somebody else down, especially if they're in a high level in the sport, but I want you to think of defense with our hand placement. So what feels natural and the way we learn a lot of the time is, as we throw this kick, we got to keep our lead hand high and tight, and then you'll see people try to generate torque by throwing their rear hand back and down. That downward, backward motion helps with balance, and they feel like they generate torque, which could be true. It leaves us open. Anytime our hands have to leave our face, just like we discussed with punches, it leaves us open to take damage. And I want to avoid that. So I've worked with a lot of high-level kickboxing coaches in the past, and I've learned a lot of different ways. My favorite way to keep my hands when I'm throwing a kick is going to be, I'm still going to put my arm out, but I'm going to keep it between their punches, their face, and my face. I don't want to give them a clear target to land a hard punch, because, truth be told, I will take a hard leg kick if I can land a hard straight cross to their chin. It's gonna end up doing more damage. So, when I throw my roundhouse kick, if I'm using my right leg, my right hand is gonna go out to block anything coming at me straight on, okay? It's a long kick. I'm not worried about their hooks necessarily, I'm worried about straight crosses. Also, it's in their face, they can't see exactly what's going on. We're keeping them busy. With that left hand, when I kick and I put that right hand out in their face, I want to bring my left hand, my thumb, to my shoulder and cover my mouth all the way up to my eyes. I want to see over it, but this is also going to help if they do get a straight punch past, this is going to catch it. So that's the hand placement I like when I kick. When I throw that right roundhouse kick, my right hand's going to go out. I'm going to bring my left hand over to cover my face, tucking my chin, keeping me well protected. I throw that kick, I protect, I come back, I'm ready to punch right from there. So how that looks on the bag, I'll throw a few just so you guys can see. And that's my goal with my hand placement on this kick. All right, so let's get into attacking certain targets and then some drills I want you guys to focus on just to practice the kick. Now, there's gonna be nuances and variances based on what our exact goal is and also our style. But this is the way I want you to learn it. Once you've learned it and developed it and have trained it, you can start putting your own little spin on things. But one of my favorite drills to do is, I call it my 6-kick drill. Today we're gonna make it 2 kicks. I'm gonna throw a roundhouse kick to the leg, reset, and then throw my next one to the body. Now this one's gonna get me focused on where my knee is going, that scope on the rifle. It's also gonna make sure I'm pivoting correctly. So I'm gonna go nice and slow, focused on hand placement because my hand placement doesn't change depending on where I'm throwing the kick. It's always in their face and protecting. So I'm gonna start with a low kick. Remember, I only have to bring my knee up as high as I'm gonna kick. I'm gonna drive that knee up to that leg level. We're aiming for their thighs, not their hip bone, not their knee. I want it above the knee. I'm gonna throw that kick, turn, and come back. I'm in a solid stance. I'm ready to strike, throw my punches from here, throw that kick, and go. After I throw maybe 5 to 10 of those, now I'm gonna bring it up to that body level. Now when you're doing this, imagine it's you. You have to kick above the waist on this. Hitting the hip bones isn't gonna do you any favors, especially if you miscalculate and you do hit with your foot. We wanna aim for just above the hips in the soft part of the body or the lower ribs. Remember, if they have good hand placement, we wanna get under that elbow. So, I'm gonna drive my knee up slightly above my waist. Drive that knee up and turn using my hand placement. Once you feel comfortable throwing it a little higher, we've got to get a little flexibility in there. The drill I want to do is I'm going to go low, middle, reset. So I'm going to throw a nice low kick, bring it right back, throw a body kick, and start working my speed. Low kick, bring it back, body kick, move. Low kick, body kick, move. Low kick, body kick, move. And that's just one way to start drilling, making sure we're getting back to a stance to throw another kick, and then we're ready to fight after that. So the roundhouse kick isn't just effective when we throw it with our rear leg. There's a ton of techniques and a ton of different roundhouse combos we can throw using our lead leg, and a bunch of different ways to do it. I'm gonna do a whole separate video on doing a left roundhouse kick or a lead roundhouse kick where we'll do switches, we'll switch our stance, we'll keep it in front, a lot of different things, really great because the liver is also on that side of their body. So using that lead leg a lot of times can attack that liver, but that's got its own technical difficulties and we're gonna get into that separate. The main kick you're gonna use in kickboxing is gonna be that rear leg low kick, that roundhouse kick. So our takeaways from today, what I need you guys to focus on is making sure, rule number one, anytime we throw a turning kick, that front foot needs to pivot. We don't want to hurt ourselves, and it will happen. And even if you don't hurt yourself, you're going to have no power on that kick. So, rule one, making sure we pivot on that front leg. Rule two, making sure we're hitting with that shin bone just above the ankle. That's where your leg is strong. That's where we can cause damage. Even if they block a body kick with their arms, your leg's going to beat their forearm every time. So don't hit with the foot. Lots of small bones. It will shatter. Hit with that shin bone. And then the other thing I need you guys to focus on is proper technique with that placement of the knee. So remember, if I'm aiming for the body, my knee needs to point where I want to kick. If I'm aiming for the leg, I don't bring it as high. If I'm aiming for the head, I'm going to drive even higher. Okay? So use that knee to define where you want your bullet, your leg, to go. Also, don't get in that habit of swinging that leg way out here, just like we've talked about with our hooks. We don't need big cartoonish movements with our uppercuts either with this kick. We want everything to be nice, tight, compact, and we want to use our rotation and our torque to generate that power. Awesome job, you guys. I hope you get a lot out of this video because it's the one I'm probably most passionate about so far. And what's awesome is now we have our basic punches and we have our first real kick. So in the next video, we start combinations. That's where we're going to start throwing these punches and this roundhouse kick together to make real effective fight-winning combinations. We're going to keep it simple at first, but simple will win fights. So practice that jab, that cross, that hook, and this low kick. I know we've also covered the uppercut. I'm going to save that one for a few videos later, and we're going to get a little bit tricky with some of our setups, and that's where we're going to start delivering that uppercut. But for right now, I want you guys to focus on that jab, cross, hook, and this low kick, and we're going to build so many cool combinations with just those 4 strikes. You're going to be really well off when you start training, hitting mitts, hitting the bag, or even eventually sparring.